So in this video we will have a closer look at the Epix watch from Garmin, which is the new OLED screen, kind of a Phoenix series of watch, but of course just branded at Epix because it does have a different screen. It is the Gen 2 and the premium active smartwatch. So this is more branded towards like an active watch smartwatch versus the Phoenix series. I have the Phoenix 7X that I've already made a video of, which is like advertised as a premium multi-sport GPS watch. So they kind of targeted this as at a different audience, and this is supposed to be the Sapphire version with titanium bezel and body or backplate, but it doesn't say so anywhere here on the box, which is a little strange, I think, compared to again like the Phoenix 7X, which is also the solar or Sapphire version and solar version, and you can see that it's advertised pretty clearly on the box. So don't know what's going on here, but it doesn't really say so at all. The only real indication here on the box that it is the right model that I have actually received is on the bottom side here, where it does have the correct model number. So a black model with the titanium body and also the Sapphire screen. And the box does look like any other Garmin box throughout the year. So yeah, nothing really surprising there. Of course, just have the picture of the newer watch. And it is brand new, sealed. Actually just received it today. So the 21st of January, it did come out, or was advertised, I believe, the 18th of January, and they are kind of hard to get actually. So I was lucky enough to get one of the first batch here, or unlucky if the first batch turned out to be a bad batch, but anyway, let's just get into it, cut the seal there, and let's just have a close look at this watch here. And of course we will do an unboxing setup and give you my first impressions here of the watch. I wasn't overly sold on this watch actually. First, initially, I really wanted the 7X because, I like the bigger watch. I like the Transflective screen. I like the battery life, always on screen without any compromises. And I also really wanted that flashlight. But for some reason, I couldn't really get this one out of my head as well, even though it's kind of an expensive and even more expensive watch than the 7X if you actually look at the feature set, because it costs exactly the same here in my country. So I got it a little bit cheaper than the MSRP, but still it is very expensive, and not really sure it is worth it. But I'm very tempted to try out that OLED screen because I really like it on my Venue 2, but I just dislike everything else about the Venue 2. The fact that it uses a touchscreen, or it needs a touchscreen to work, bad battery life, and the screen kind of goes out, or even though if you have to set it to always on screen, it doesn't really work when you're sleeping. And there's all kinds of compromise, and you don't get all the training features and so on with the Phoenix series. But this one, you do get all the Phoenix functions, or the functions of the higher end watches like the Forerunner and Phoenix series. It's also packed in a much nicer design. And my reason for getting this is because I also want a little bit the smaller watch, because I really like running with my 945 LTE. But I can still return this one here. I am still within the return window, so actually considering just returning this just to get a little bit of a lighter watch. And this is actually lighter than the Phoenix 7 series, or the Phoenix 7 models, not the 7X or 7S, but the Phoenix 7. Even though it does share the exact same footprint, it is a few grams lighter as well. So and of course quite a bit lighter than the 7X series as well. And you do get battery life somewhere in between the Phoenix 6 and the Phoenix 7. Of course, you will kind of destroy the battery life if you leave the screen on always. So that kind of something you have to evaluate with yourself, is that's truly worth it. But you can get up to around 6 days of smartwatch, and I believe also tracking several activities throughout these 6 days, and still have always on screen. And of course, you can get 16 days with the flip to wake or wrist to wake feature. But anyways, let's get into this box here. Pretty common Garmin box. Of course, the watch here nicely presented at the top. Inside, you get a smaller box, and in this smaller box, you get the charging cable, and you also get the quick start instructions. And this will of course get you up and running quickly, but you can also go to Garmin's website to get more instructions and also download the full featured manual. And you also get this important safety information. Whoever reads those, I'm not really sure. And you get the same proprietary charging cable, data cable that we've seen with Garmin watches for many years now. I like it, very compact and slim, and I have several of these. So I kind of have them all over the place, like in my apartment, in my bag, and in my girlfriend's place, so on. Very convenient to just have one cable to all of the watches from Garmin. And then of course we have the main character here, Always nicely protected here. Let's just take it out of the packaging. And one thing I'm a little bit disappointed at actually with this current generation of Garmin watches, I feel like they could have done a little bit more in terms of bands. You see just these silicone straps here. It is designed a little bit different compared to the older models or other models from the Garmin watches, but still just silicone straps. You don't have any kind of sports band like these ones here are officially from Garmin. So you kind of tie it into the silicone strap. I don't like silicone straps because it gives me a rash. So I always swap those out the first thing I get the watch, or the second I get the watch. And I feel like Garmin could do a little bit better here in offering other kinds of sporting bands. I know they have leather bands and metal bands, but I'm talking about lightweight sports band like these for 22mm watches. They do have the Ultra Fit band, but that's only for 26mm, not for 22 or for 20mm. In fact, for the Fenix 7S series. So yeah, Garmin come up with a lot more watch bands. I hope you will make a little more research and development in those areas like Apple is doing with their watch bands. Seem to have a new kind of watch band in with every generation of Apple watches. But yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So these silicone straps definitely is very comfortable to wear, very stretchable, very durable. So don't really mind them in that aspect. It's just that it is not that breathable. If you want to get the complete set of data of your entire life, like sleep and body battery and so on, and stress levels, you kind of need to wear this 24/7 silicone straps. It just doesn't work for me. But it is a nice silicone strap, and you can see here that smooth design looks kind of nice. Kind of looks the same way as on the Fenix 7X, but of course the 7X is a little bit bigger because this is a 26mm band. And of course you do still have the quick release system, or quick fit system, which Garmin calls it. It is very smart to use here, but just of course squeeze it out like so and click it in place again. But it does also add quite a bit of weight because there's springs and screws, and you hold it. The whole mounting system here does add up in weight, so that's one of the downsides, I believe, with this system here. So if you want to go as lightweight as possible, the silicone strap is definitely not something you should use. And like I said, this is the 22mm version, so the smaller variant, I believe the smallest they have is 20mm. And on the back side here is one of the bigger improvements compared to the previous generation here. This is my Tactics Delta. Of course, you do have the Elevate 3 on the Tactics Delta, Elevate 4 on the Epix here, but also the kind of backplate design where it is incorporated into the backplate, and also have a glass lens compared to like the older models here, which have a plastic blob there, and yeah, it kind of sticks out of the backplate. And then of course you have the Venue 2 here on the left, which also do have the Elevate 4 heart rate sensor, but it also have the same old design-ish, with just a plastic blob there, sticks out of the plastic frame. Whereas, like I said, this is much nicer on the Epix and also the Fenix 7 series. Let's just see on the back. Yeah, it does say titanium there. Nowhere on the box does it say so. At least where I could find 100 meters. And also Sapphire. So yeah, definitely is the right watch. But it's a little strange that they do not write that on the box. Also have military standards. And it is a Gen 2, of course. And that proprietary little plug there for data and charging. I like it. Like I said, I have had no issues at all with cables and still holds up just fine. 4 screws here on the back. And yeah, the back plate is titanium, as well as on the front bezel here, also titanium. We of course also have the newer design here with the screws in each of those like anchor points for the watch band instead of screwed into the frame itself. Looks a lot cleaner. I kind of like it. And yeah, other than that, pretty much the same design aesthetics as the Series 6 watch from Garmin. Let's just peel off this little plastic protector here. For some reason it is black and white. Why they will put a black and white screen protector on there when it's have a nice saturated OLED screen, I'm not really sure. But of course this is, like I said, the Sapphire version. You do not have any solar panels or anything with this one here. Just a Sapphire screen, which have less transparency compared to the Gorilla Glass version you can get, but also have a lot more durable screen, so it will be harder, or much harder to actually scratch this watch face. Button wise, we have pretty nice, clicky and tactical buttons. Looks pretty identical to the like Fenix 7 watch there, just smaller. And we do have that newer design here, where there is actually a little guard there for the start-stop button, like on each side of the start-stop button. So it will be harder to accidentally press that button, which is of course something you would not want to do when you're in an activity. So yeah, definitely like that little extra layer of protection compared to like here my Tactics Delta. You can see where it just sticks out there. Also makes it a little harder to press, so you have to get used to it if you're used to the Fenix 6 series or an earlier models. It just sticks out and you can press it pretty much wherever. With this one here, you kind of have to press it in the middle. So it does take a little muscle memory there, and yeah, definitely have pressed my Fenix 7X a few times on the side there. Well, yeah, I didn't really do anything. But nice to have that added protection. Of course, you have the altimeter and barometer here, pretty much the same place as the Fenix 6 series. Back button, all buttons on this watch here feels very nice. And of course, it is significantly smaller here than my 7X, which is one of the reasons why I also wanted to try this one. I actually plan to go for the Fenix 7 series this time around because I wanted a little bit of a smaller watch, and I also wanted titanium just to get the lowest weight possible. But that flashlight actually just sold it for me on the 7X, and also the battery life as well is just so much better on the 7X now. Always been better on this on the bigger models, on the X models, but this is just significantly better. So I went for that version instead, and then I plan to maybe keep this one as my secondary watch and switching between the two. Maybe if I want something a little bit lighter, of course I can use this one, and if I want something like a nice saturated screen, excuse me, of course I will go for the Epix. And for my main watch, I will just use the 7X. But maybe for some split runs and longer runs, it will be a little too heavy. So I can swap it with the like a little lighter and smaller watch. Instead of, like I said, I have my 945 LTE, which I really like. The weight and the feel on my wrist. I don't really feel this at all. But it is a plastic watch and a Gorilla Glass DX screen. Much more transparent, but also much more prone to scratches. And the screen is also a little bit smaller. So of course much lighter, but it's not that much lighter that I think I would actually notice it if I'm not really thinking about it. Issue is when you're trying new watches and you want to get some lighter watches, you're kind of thinking about it quite a lot, but when you actually just get out there and run, yeah, I'm not really sure how much I will notice. So this one also supposed to have black bezels like my 7X. This is the black version. Also get it in carbon gray, and I believe this is supposed to be black as well, but I'm not really sure it is as black as the 7X. Seem to be a little, or have a little bit of a silver glow there, but not really bad at all. So yeah, so make more sense to me to get the Epix over the Fenix 7 titanium, because you get that screen, even though it does have its disadvantages, like you have to flip the wrist to get the best battery life. If you want to leave it always on, you kind of lose some ability to watch the screen at certain angles and certain times of day when the sun is shining down the screen. It will go into kind of a sleep mode where it doesn't have as much light, and it kind of can be hard to actually see. As well, if you have to kind of set it up a little bit in settings if you want it on when you're sleeping and so on. That's one thing I don't like with my Venue 2. It just, even though you have it always on, if you have a sleep mode enabled, it will just turn on or off while you're sleeping, and you still have to like double tap the screen to actually see the time, which is very annoying if you're used to just having that always on screen like the Fenix series have always had. So I'm kind of curious to try it out. I'm not really sure it's 100% for me for my main watch, but for my kind of secondary watch, lighter watch, I think I can actually live with it. I really like it on my Venue 2 when I'm out running. It looks very nice in direct sunlight, and also I can just leave it on when I'm running, like within an activity. I just have it always on. I think I will do the same with this one here and just have flip to wrist just to get the best battery life and also eliminate the burn-in as much as I possibly can, which is also kind of a disadvantage with OLED screens, that you can kind of just get burn-in retention. So if you have the same screen on your watch for too long, it can kind of just stay there forever. So that's of course something you kind of want to avoid. I'm not really sure how well Garmin have actually designed the UI underneath to actually shift out those pixels from time to time, so it just doesn't use the same amount of pixels. Maybe if it goes into like a little bit dimmer mode, it will actually switch out the pixels from time to time, so it won't burn in that screen. But that's also always an issue with OLED, and also the blue color will always run out a little bit faster. So the longevity of this screen is not up to par with like the Transflective screen or any kind of LCD screen. but what you get is super high contrast and super nice and rich colors. And this is also supposed to be a very bright screen. And speaking of screen, let's just turn it on and actually have a closer look, set it up right out of the bed. It kind of looked like a Transflective screen. I also have a lot of light shining down towards the screen, of course, my studio light here, so that can also make it look a little duller and a little less bright. One thing, of course, you can distinguish between the 7 series and the Epix is, of course, that red ring you have around here. The button, the start-stop button, which is not something I at least have had in my 7X here, which is also the Sapphire titanium version. And also with the Sapphire titanium version, you also get dual band GPS and also 32 gigabytes of storage, excuse me, compared to like 16 gigabyte in the lower end or lower tier models, and only regular GPS. But anyways, it says ready. Let's just get in here and actually set it up, and asking me to pair with my phone. Of course, if you don't have Garmin Connect installed, you need to go in and install it and create a Garmin account. I've really done that much activity as of late because I took a fall the other day and actually kind of have a lot of pain in my right side. So go out and run right now is not really something I do. I plan to do maybe a slow run tomorrow, but I just did a walk today with my 7X. Anyways, going to my Garmin units here, add device, just click yes here to pair with your phone, and it should pop up within a few seconds. And it didn't pop up within a few seconds. Anyways, let's see if we can find it here. Epix Gen 2 is definitely there. Let's just try and go back actually. Let's try again, because it usually just pops up. And there it was. Just need a little more time. And of course, type in that password there on your phone, 009945. This is just a pairing code. You only have to use that once. And then all you can do is, of course, wait for it to set up. Of course, I will allow notifications. I'm not going to replace my 7X as of right now, because I still plan to keep this as my main watch, and it will just set up the watch. Takes a few seconds here. Let's actually back out just a little bit here so we can see the entirety of the phone and also get into the menu structure maybe, and get a little notification there from Garmin. Thank you very much for registering your device. And let's just minimize all the glare here. So it is connected. This actually remembered my settings. For some reason, all of my Fenix watches as of late, I've had to set those up manually every time into Garmin Connect here, like my weight and my height and everything. This one seems to be already getting those information, which is kind of nice. And now it's just syncing, so let's just let it sync up a little bit here. And that was pretty fast actually. And that's pretty much it. You get a few stuff you can do here. So you get this little prompt here asking you to set up some of the quick settings. And yeah, the screen is off. To send an assistant alert, you should hold until you feel 3 vibrations. Yes, thank you. Get all those pop-up notifications there. But anyways, you can of course set up music, Garmin Pay, Wi-Fi, and live track. And by the way, let's just go in here and set the screen up. That's the first thing to actually be on all the time. And display during activity, general use. The display is always on, but I believe it's of course not on my wrist, so it will just time out after a second or two. Let's just put it on my finger here and see if it's actually stay on. And yeah, you can see the screen stays on, and this is kind of the sleep mode it gets into that I talked about before. It can be kind of hard to actually see. Especially noticed it when I driving in my car, you know, have your hand on your steering wheel and the sun is coming in through the window, hitting the watch directly. I couldn't really see the time or anything like that, at least on my Venue 2. I'm not really sure if it's been better on this one here, but definitely something I'm going to try out. But yeah, right off the bat, the screen definitely looks very vibrant. But one of the new things here, of course, with the newer generation of watches, and now it just turned off. Anyways, let's get into the settings here. Is of course you can do a lot more settings in Garmin Connect on your smartphone. So you don't have to dig through the menu system on the watch itself, which is kind of something you had to do forever, like on Fenix watches or Garmin watches. You kind of get used to it, but it's much easier to just have everything laid out here on a smartphone and be able to go in and set everything up. Yeah, you can set up a lot of things right now. Not everything. I've noticed a few things still not able to set it up, but For instance, if you have an activity on apps, all of the activities you can see here, one of the strengths on Garmin here is you can have so many activities. You can actually go in and edit all of those activities here. So let's just go into Track Me, and you can set it up in the app. This is a new thing, of course. You have been able to do that on the watch itself, but not in Garmin Connect, which is an excellent thing. And of course, you also have that GNSS and multi-GNSS, multi-band, but that will just kill your battery completely. I'm not sure I will use that actually at all, but it's a nice thing to have, but it's kind of the equivalent of having two GPS units running at the same time. Of course, that will just drain a lot more battery. But just being able to set everything up on the phone, so much easier and faster. You get a much better look at all of this feature. So of course you have activities, notifications, and alarm looks, where you can go in and set specific watch faces. But this is one of the things that says this settings is only available on the Epix. So I can't yet go in and set up watch faces. I can kind of download watch faces from the Connect IQ store, and I can delete it and so on here. And some of the watch faces from Connect IQ store, I can also go into specific settings on the phone, but not the default ones on the phone here, which you can see there, which is, yeah, probably come at some point. And overlook here, you can go into that setting. This is, of course, all of your widgets here. And you get another tip on your watch. Thank you very much, Garmin. Sensors accessories, new thing as well, you can set up on your phone. You have maps as well. Of course, you can set up your map, everything from the track color to color mode, and it does have an auto color mode, so it will automatically switch to night mode, which is kind of nice. Music, of course, you can use services like Spotify and Deezer, Amazon Music as well, but I use none of those, so yeah, I have no experience using them. But you need Wi-Fi and you can sync the music automatically to the watch. But that's again one thing, big downside with Garmin watches. If you use music streaming as well as GPS at the same time, it will again kill your battery life significantly faster than if you're just using GPS. So I tend to just use a separate Walkman headphones. These are my old ones. I have my new ones at my girlfriend's place right now, but these are not connected to the watch. They are just a separate Walkman headphones. So I like that much better. So I'm not draining the battery on my watch. Connection options here. Of course, you have phone connection, and set up all of your smart notifications here if you want to receive those. I really like it. Sound messages. If you want sound messages, you can get it through your headphones. You can also get a little beep from the watch itself. Of course, the watch doesn't have a speaker of any sort or microphone still. Hope we'll see that in the future. But as of yet, nothing like that is available on this class of watches. And no LTE, which is also kind of a strange thing when they just announced the 945 LTE, which is the only watch right now that has that capability. Of course, your user profile, safety and tracking. So if you take a fall, for instance, you can have the watch automatically notify your contacts. Activity tracking, of course, to track all your daily activities, your steps and Muse IQ. It's a nice thing to have enabled. Navigation, you can also set that up here. Power management, of course, you can have battery saver here, enable, disable, and you also have different kind of battery settings you can set up. I just leave it at default. I don't really like that. I like to have battery percentages, so let's just turn that on, and battery estimations as well. And then you get into system settings here, and that's a nice thing again, to be able to go in and set all of those system settings up. For instance, we were just in the display settings before on the watch, and we can go in and set everything up here. So enable or disable always on screen and so on. And I believe you can also set up different kind of power modes. I'm not really sure where it actually is. Of course, in sleep function here, you can also set the screen to actually be in sleep mode, so it will still show you the time, but it just uses much less power as well, which is a nice thing. I wish that the Venue 2 had a feature like that, because that just turns off in sleep, even if you have always on screen turned on. So yeah, it's a nice upgrade here to have all those features, and you can also make this your primary activity tracking device, of course, for tracking sleep and steps and so on. It will just use this as the main device, but I have my Phoenix 6 or 7X, excuse me, right now as my main device. It may be changing in the future if I really ended up liking that OLED screen over the battery life and size of the 7X, but yeah, time will only tell. And of course, find my unit. So a lot of stuff here, and I can see it all already sending me a software update. So I will just go into Garmin Express on my computer and actually download that update. It's much faster to do it on your computer. So one thing I want to test right out of the bat here is charging speeds, because that's one thing I really wish that Garmin would have like made a little more effort in actually supporting fast charge of any kind of fast charge. I have measured the ampere out of the Tactix Delta and my 7X, and it seems to be around the same. So doesn't seem to have any fast charging, at least on those two watches. So 0.25-ish amps. Let's see if this one is around the same. See, connected here. Its charging is 95%. And it's 0.10 amps. And maybe that's because there is already that much battery on the watch itself. So it's probably just trickle charging right now. But I will do some further testing in the future to see how fast they are actually charging, or rather how many ampere they are actually drawing from the wall itself. Because I don't think actually there is any faster charging in the newer series of watches from Garmin, which is a little unfortunate. Of course, I don't really know the battery size. Maybe it's smaller because of a more efficient chipset, so it will charge faster that way. But at least in terms of how much power it actually is drawing from the power plug or the power adapter, it seems to be around the same as the Fenix 6 series. And then of course we have the watch itself. Right out the bat, that OLED screen just looks so nice. You can see here the same kind of widget here. Let's just go to the sun up, sun set widget. You can see there, it just put that Fenix 7X to shame. Nice colors, and let's just go into that, and you can see it just pops so much more. I wouldn't really notice it unless I was watching them side by side. So yeah, be wary when you're actually doing this. Because you probably would like to go for the Epix model and not the Transflective display, because it just looks so much nicer. Let's go into the weather app here, and you can see the black is just inky black here on the Epix, compared to like, yeah, what is it, like grayish, dimish color there on the Fenix 7X. So definitely is kind of a big improvement in terms of visual fidelity, in terms of contrast and color, compared to the Fenix series. But you lose a lot in terms of battery life, and also in terms of the always on screen. You have a no compromise always on screen here. It shows the same exact screen day and night, whereas on the Epix here you will kind of have to sacrifice a little bit. It will kind of turn off a little bit when you're flipping or turn the wrist back to its original position, and kind of dim down a little bit in a few seconds, and you don't get really the same always on screen feature as you do with the Transflective screen. And as well, if you have the always on screen, you just kill the battery pretty fast, and you can see that it just went into some kind of a sleep mode. So it will no longer show you the seconds, of course. Doesn't really make sense that it should do so when it's sleeping, but you kind of have to flip the wrist there to kind of wake the watch again, even if you have the always on screen. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of a downside with the OLED screen. You get nice colors and contrast, but only really when you're using the watch. If you just want to peek what time it is, you can see it can be kind of hard to peek, and just imagine there's a lot of light, sunlight coming through your car window there, and just want to see what time it is. Actually, from where I'm sitting right here, I can't really see what time it is. I can maybe just make it out, but that's kind of an issue, so you kind of have to flip the wrist anyway. Still a lot of downside with OLED screen. Looks kind of amazing, but yeah, you get a lot of drawbacks in my opinion. So I cannot probably not live with this as my primary watch, because I like just having the always on screen, truly always on screen on, and the battery life. But as a secondary watch, I think I can actually manage and live with this one here. It is though a very expensive secondary watch to have, so that's my main gripe with this one here. It still is significantly more expensive than my 945 LTE. Not quite twice as much, but it's getting close to that, maybe 40% more. Let's just try and weigh this watch here. First off, of course, with the watch band, 69.8 grams. And let's just remove the watch band here, and we're looking at 86.8 grams. If we throw in this is the Yo side band that I highly recommend. Link, of course, in the description below. Let's see what we can get here. 52.7 grams. And I have exactly the same band here on my 945 LTE. Let's see what that actually weighs. So you can see you are looking at around 15 grams more. It's definitely something you can notice. I'm not really sure it's big enough of a difference for me to really want to switch out this nice OLED screen for this smaller one here, but also get a bigger screen, a higher resolution screen. This is a small screen, which is kind of a little too small from time to time, and also a little too small on my wrist, I think. So I feel like the 15 grams more with the same watch band is definitely worth it, in my opinion, at least initially. But I have to do some testing. Let's try this like cheaper bands here from AliExpress, also like a sports band type, and 52.1 grams. So just around the 52 grams with this sports band. Definitely not bad in my book at all. And just comparing to my 7X here with the Yoside sports band, 68.4 grams. So that is significantly heavier again. So the difference between the 945 LTE to the Epix here with the same watch band in terms of weight is about the same as the difference between the Epix to the Phoenix 7X. Again, in terms of the weight and the same kind of watch band. So I'm still losing a lot of weight here with the Epix. Definitely is a significant chunk of weight, so 16 grams lighter. So is that enough reason to keep this watch when I have the 7X? I'm not really sure, but I really want to. It's much more like I want to than I really need to. So want to have, not need to have. I could definitely do with my 7X, or even just go with my Light Tactics Delta and swap between the 945 LTE. But I don't really think I want to keep this one, the 945 LTE, when there's newer watches out that has much better GPS. Hopefully, at least my 7X definitely is quite a bit better at GPS, at least at acquiring GPS. So I hope it will be the same with the Epix, because it does share the same GPS chip inside and probably also kind of the same antenna design. Of course, you lose out on that flashlight that we have on the 7X. That's the only model you can get the flashlight on. For some reason, I'm not really sure why they didn't bring it to the 7 or the Epix series. But that's one thing you lose out on. And in terms of screens, or rather the lens on top of the screen, both of these are Sapphire lenses. And you can see here, you do get a lot of glare, but I think Garmin had done quite a good job this year actually minimizing glare. And the glare that you actually get is quite a bit lower than on previous Sapphire models from Garmin. Do get a lot of glare from the flashlights there, but if you just compare it to my Tactics Delta, you can see the glare is actually much worse at certain angles, as like here. It almost lights up the entire watch face there. Lose some transparency with the Sapphire over the Gorilla Glass DX, and that's the same with the Phoenix series. But I feel like this OLED screen still pops quite a bit when you actually look at it. It looks quite amazing. And let's just go in and see the default watch faces on this watch here. So let's go all the way up to the top. This is the top here. Of course, you can change out the color, I believe, a lot of these watch faces, and of course data fields as well. So this one here, first one, second one, and third one, I believe you only get this at the lower end models. Correct me if I'm wrong. Another Epic specific watch face here. And this one looks a little more like in line with the Phoenix line of watches here, but not quite. Oh, you do also get the same watch face here. I really like this watch face because you get a lot of data fields. And man, just look at that watch face pop compared to compared to the 7X there. I don't know if it comes across well on the camera, but even when it's sleeping, it looks quite a bit better. Let's see actually how well we can actually see the watch face when we are kind of moving the watch away from the light. And actually, it looks a bit better on the Epix for some reason. So the watch is sleeping right now. Let's just turn it at an angle, and the Epix is a little bit brighter actually. I can actually see the watch face. That kind of surprised me a little bit. And the watch just came on, of course, but does look to be a little more readable at extreme angles. You just want to glance at your watch, you actually should be able to do so quite well on the Epix. That kind of surprised me a little bit. Let's do the same test with the Venue 2. So both of these screens are set to always on, but of course I don't have the same watch face. Let's just wait for them to actually go into sleep mode. Yeah, you can see in this test here, they're actually doing quite a good job. Out in the real world, I did have a lot of issues actually watching this watch here, just in the cloudy days or sunny days, or the Venue 2 rather, watch in cloudy days and sunny days. Having that always on screen here, going into sleep mode, just kind of killed that, OLED visibility. But of course, with the Transflective screen, The more sunlight, the better. It will kind of reflect off the screen and make it much brighter. But right out the bat here in my studio lighting environment, yeah, pretty good off-angle viewability here if you just want to peek at the watch and you have the always on screen turned on. Anyways, let's just get into the widgets here. You have all the same widgets, I believe, as the other Phoenix series. One difference, of course, is that you have a much higher resolution screen on the Epix. So maybe pushing more pixels to the screen can actually make the UI feel a little slower at times. I'm not really sure. This is just some speculation. It does definitely feel very smooth, and yeah, right out the bat, don't really feel it any slower than my Phoenix. As you can see, it doesn't really drop any frames. Maybe a little slight hiccup here and there. But yeah, you have all these widgets here. These are just the standard ones. And getting into settings, of course, of the watch. Scrolling down, you can see it is very touch friendly, big buttons and so on. Let's go into system here and let's just scroll down, and where is it? Data recording. I always go in here and set this to every second. So it will just count your data every second when you're using GPS. The smart recording is a little iffy at times. And you can see the software version here out of the box is 6.55. So yeah, this is a very new watch. Of course, you will have very low firmware version. And there's always already a new one pushing to the watch here from Garmin Connect. But yeah, you have system, you have power management, navigation, activity tracking, safety tracking, user profile, audio prompt, and so on and so on. And we already watch all of these in the app itself. So pretty much all the same setup functions. Some functions you still only can set up in your watch itself. I believe it will get better over time, but as of now, you still need the watch for certain things, but you can set up more things in the Garmin Connect app. Let's go into activity here. So you get the pop-up screen here to choose your activities. Let's use trail run, and hike, and also just do the occasional walking, but definitely have a lot of activities here and for every kind of activity. So I don't really think, yeah, anybody really would be disappointed with all of these, activities you can select here. So you can see here, let's go into example run here, suggested workouts. This is of course connected to my other watches here. So this is what they suggested for my daily workout, but I'm going out and run tomorrow. But man, it definitely looks nice. Let's just bring in my, where is it? 7X here, going into the run as well. And just have a look at that screen. That inky black from the OLED just looks amazing. Okay, touch of course is disabled when you're in an activity, which is also the case on the 7 series. But man, that just looks very nice. So the watch band I plan to use with this one is this Yo-Side watch band. Like I said, I've made videos about this, and of course I will share some link down in the description below. Very comfortable, breathable, and very lightweight watch band. And let's just mount it to the watch and actually try and put the watch on my wrist. So the watch band is installed, and one of the reasons why it's so lightweight is because it doesn't use the quick fit system. It just like squeezes onto the little watch tabs there, or splits. And yeah, just one pull tab here, so you can pull it on your wrist, and just like so. Definitely looks a little more silver than black, also compared to my Phoenix 7X here. That looks a little more black. This is a little more silver, but of course I have a lot of light shining down towards the watch face or watch screen here. So yeah, this is on my wrist, around a 17 centimeter wrist with the Yo-Side band there. Definitely looks quite nice, I think. Actually like the sizing a little bit. Maybe not better than my 7X, but definitely looks nice as well. I like it better than my 945 LTE. It just looks so tiny on my wrist because I'm used to bigger watches. So I never really liked the look of that one here. So yeah, that's definitely going back. But yeah, man, I like this one here. It's a nice compromise over size and weight and screen, of course, real estate. So if you want OLED and Garmin, you only really have to choose between the two here. The Venue 2 in various different variants, and as well the Epix here in various different variants. You cannot get bigger versions. This is the biggest you can get. So it's a 1.3 inch screen. It's, I believe, exactly the same as the Venue 2. And yeah, the Venue 2 does have a little bit different widget design here, but also a lot less functions. For instance, it doesn't have any training statuses, or you can kind of see your VO2 max, but you have to go into the settings of the Venue here. Believe you have to go in and look at, what is it, user profile, and then you can kind of see your VO2 there. Whereas of course on the Epix here, you have all the features available, and it will also kind of predict what kind of times you have in your marathon and 10K, 5K and half marathon. So the Venue 2 is kind of a dumbed down Garmin watch. I wouldn't even call it a dumbed down Phoenix watch, but just a significantly less intelligent watch, so to speak, compared to the Epix. So if you want the Phoenix functionality and this Forerunner functionality, you definitely have to step up and get the Epix one, and you definitely have to pay through the nose to get the same screen on a different body with, of course, more functionality and more features. That's really worth it. Of course, that's up to you. I'm not 100% sold on it yet, and I'm not 100% sure I'm going to keep it. But if I'm going to keep it, I'm 100% sure I'm going to get rid of my Venue 2, because I don't really find that all that useful. It's a little too smartwatchy for me. I like those advanced training features on the Phoenix series. So if you want that in the OLED screen, you have to pay quite a hefty sum to do so. Of course, this is also the most expensive model with the Sapphire screen and the titanium bezel and backplate. You can of course get the cheaper Gorilla Glass DX versions, and those come with less storage on board, 16 GB, and doesn't have the dual band GPS, but you definitely get a more transparent screen, although not as scratch protected. But the touch interface of the Venue 2, I'm not a big fan. You only really have 2 buttons, so you kind of have to use the touch screen. If you want to start an activity, you can kind of start it with the buttons here, just pressing the button, but only the top activity you will get into. But you do kind of have to rely on the touchscreen for swiping between different kind of like activity screens or data fields or data screens when you're doing an activity. And also if you want to save your activity, you have to use the touch screen again, and it's not really all that great. I really don't like it. So having that nice screen with the kind of Phoenix UI with a proper button layout, so you don't have to use the touch screen. You can do so, but the button layout, you can get everything done as well. So you have the 5 button setup. I really like that as well. And I really like the screen when I'm actually using it, but not as useful in my opinion when it's always on. And of course you have to take a big hit in battery life. A month of battery life here on the 7X, a nifty little flashlight built in, 6 days of battery life, the Epix 2 here. And if you have a lot of sun, you can actually get quite a bit better battery life also with the 7X. So you kind of have to consider if battery life is worth it, or screen quality or screen vibrancy is important to you. Of course, get the Sapphire version. But for me, I consider the 7X to be my primary watch, and if I end up keeping the Epix, it's going to be my secondary watch. I'll probably also use it from time to time as my main watch or my daily watch, just switching between the two. It could be quite kind of nice, but definitely really like this 7X feature, battery life, and always on screen. And if you consider like the Venue 2, I would probably reconsider unless price is a big factor, because the Venue 2 is just so much cheaper than the Epix, but you lose out of a lot of the features from the Garmin or the Phoenix and Forerunner series of watches. So my first impressions, I like it. Nice vibrant screen, and it makes your like Transflective screen look so dull comparison. So that's one downside. It is a very expensive watch, and I have a feeling that Garmin will probably come out with a Plus version as well as for the Phoenix 7 series sometime in the future with LTE and maybe even phone call capabilities like they did with the Venue 2, with the Plus version with phone calls. And yeah, maybe they will come out with an upgraded version like 6 months down the line. But as of now, this is the best watch you can get, or the most feature-rich watch you can get from Garmin with an OLED screen. And I'm very tempted on keeping it, but I'm not 100% sure. Of course, I will do some further testing, and I will get back with my initial reviews and whatever kind of findings I will find throughout the time. So maybe after a week of usage and after a month or so, I will get back and talk about my findings, unless I really find something I dislike or that I like a lot. I think Garmin has done a well job this time around with the Sapphire screen. Seems to be quite a bit more transparent compared to earlier models. So Definitely would not consider that as big of a downside compared to the Gorilla Glass DX screen if you are into like clarity of the screen. I feel like the Sapphire is definitely better this time around. Better heart rate sensor, and yeah, actually a little bit lighter than the Phoenix 7 series, and battery life actually quite good if you don't use the always on screen. It's kind of in between the Phoenix 6 and 7 series. So you're not losing out too much if you consider this Phoenix 7 series, other than of course always on screen and also solar charging in some models. But I feel like this watch is a little too expensive. It should have been less expensive than their top range model in my opinion. And that's the major downside I have with this watch here. I'm not really sure it is worth it, especially because I consider using it just as a secondary watch. But I really like it, and I look forward to try it out and spend some time with this watch here, as well as my Phoenix 7X. If there's any questions or anything, let me know down in the comments below. But else, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope to see you again in a future video. Until then, take care.